Welcome to episode 199 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and Jeff Gamet is back on the show. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great, and I am seriously happy to be here.
And I'm happy to have you be here. And we have another guest returning to the show. So glad he's back. Andrew Orr. How you doing, Andrew?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing good this week.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. And we got a lot of good stuff to talk about this week. I found some good stories of going on, and then we're going to touch a little bit about the new iMovie app that came out, and Tim Cook talking to the Global Summit, and all that other fun stuff here. So let's just dive right into the news for this week. One of my favorite apps, 1Password, is 1Password 8 beta is now available on the iPhone and the iPad with a new design, rebuilt core, and more. 1Password 8 is now available as a public beta for iPhone and iPad and brings a number of major changes to the popular password manager. The update comes as 1Password 8 is had debuted for the Mac last year with a controversial transition to the cross-platform Electron core. But it's bringing back an all-new design, new features, customizations, and all that fun stuff. Jeff, you're a 1Password user as I am. I assume you are as well, Andrew. But I started playing with it a little bit in 8 on the Mac, and I haven't dabbled into it yet for the iPhone. But what do you think of this? Is this going to be a big problem? We love the fact that 1Password was just for us Mac and Apple users, but not anymore.
Well, okay. So the iOS and iPadOS versions are still native apps.
They're native, right?
And I'm calling that out because I'm assuming a lot of people are concerned that version 8 is Electron for everything.
Right.
But that's not the case.
That is true.
Moving to Electron on the Mac, I get it. There's a bigger market out there that they need to address. Mm-hmm. And that market includes Windows. And if they're going to have a platform where they can truly support both Mac and Windows, they need to have this set up in a way where it's actually easy to do that. And so while I'd rather have it native on the Mac, I get why it's Electron. I have not been playing with the betas though, because
it scares me.
This is one place where I know people that are living in the betas for 1Password, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But I'll do all kinds of beta stuff, but my password database, I am kind of conservative about that.
Yeah, me too. I think it's also going to include Chrome OS. I believe they expanded in Electron, and if I'm not mistaken, it's not just Windows, Linux, of course, and so they're going to be they're going all out on platforms as far as on the desktop side.
And that's smart.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're going to go for the big players, so that means you're going for companies, you're going for enterprise level stuff, then you need to be looking at more than Mac and Windows at this point, because there are a lot of other devices in a lot of other environments where you want to cover it all.
Absolutely. Andrew, you use 1Password?
I did in the past. I don't anymore.
Okay.
But I read the article, and I think the new design looks great. It looks very native Apple UI design, like it fits 100% into the system. And I have heard negative things in the past about, 1Password going to the Electron app on macOS, but sounds like they're still doing good so far from my perspective.
Yeah. I think for iOS, you'll be fine. No one has to worry. So, move on to the next story here. Apple's app tracking transparency crackdown estimated to cost lowly old Facebook another $13 billion in 2022, almost a year after Apple released iOS 14.5, alongside the ability to unlock the iPhone with an Apple Watch while wearing a mask and new emojis. The company also brought that controversial app tracking transparency feature to life. 12 months after, a new report now indicates that how ATT could impact revenue for Facebook, Twitter, Snap, and YouTube in 2022. According to a report, big tech platforms reference could drop by almost $16 billion due to Apple's app tracking transparency. Of course, you don't remember it. It does have to ask you. It's asking you permission to allow across the other apps and websites. I don't know if I have much sympathy for Facebook. What do you think, Andrew? I sure don't.
Yeah, I thought this was interesting because I saw a headline go by earlier today where it sounded like someone from Apple was calling Facebook or Meta a hypocrite because
that would be Tim Cook.
Okay. So it sounds like Meta plans to charge users or developers 50% for, its transactions. And I thought it was interesting because I was asking myself, is this a reaction to this money that ATT is costing them, or was that their plan all along? So I was trying to, wrestle with that.
Yeah.
I think it was their plan all along, because the amount of money that they will get by doing the 50% cut, I don't think we're looking at 13 billion. I don't think we're looking at that kind of money. Andrew, I am with you. I do not have sympathy for Facebook over this. And I mean, they made a very conscious decision to exploit their users in a way that I feel is somewhat unethical, because they're using just these questionable methods in some cases to really mine as much data out of their users as they possibly can. And then of course their revenue model is advertising, right, even though they do have other things that you as a Facebook user can pay for, like if your businesses and stuff. But ultimately it's ads. So if their whole ad model is based on horrendous exploitation of their users, well, as they say, karma's a bitch.
It sure is. It sure is. Next couple stories here about Apple TV. Actually, no. We'll actually start here with about the Shot on iPhone challenge and how the company views photography. This was an Apple Insider. Apple says that the macro Shot on iPhone challenge is evidence that the true potential of our products is fully realized when users get a hold of them. And they announced the 10 winners of the Shot on iPhone challenge on Wednesday, shortly after YouTuber and photographer Tyler Stallman sat down with Apple VP of iPhone marketing, Can Dranson, to discuss the challenge and the winners. That's at a link in the show notes here with the video. But there's some pretty amazing photos, and the macro capability on the iPhone 13 Pro is just absolutely phenomenal. I know, Jeff, you've been playing a lot with macro. I have as well. What do you think? I think this is great to see Apple's really showcasing this.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. And I think it's a great way for people to see that you don't have to go out and buy a high-end DSLR to take really good photos. For me, my sole camera for several years now has been an iPhone. And I think I completely made the transition away from a separate digital camera with iPhone 7.
Yeah.
And it's...
I mean, I still have my DSLR sitting in my closet over here, and it's inside its case, so it isn't collecting dust, but it has been collecting dust, and I had to take the battery out of it just to make sure it doesn't get corroded or something. Right. But I mean, I'm a big Nikon fan. I always have been, and I think they got the glass on the Nikons the Nikkor lenses are just phenomenal. But you just get so tired of lugging around all that extra heavy equipment these days, and the iPhone 13 Pro is going to be a great thing. Have you tried any type of photography with that, Android, your iPhone?
So yeah, macro is, I feel like that's been the main genre I've been interested in. And macro is also kind of it was like one of the main features that kind of nudged me to get in the 13 Pro.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's really phenomenal, because when I had my iPhone 7 Plus, for example, to do my macro, I got this external lens from Clip that you could just clip onto it.
I loved those lenses.
Yeah, those lenses were great.
Yeah. But I was thinking about this news, and I was questioning whether this would still, like, this is great for, regular users, amateur photographers, but I think the professionals are still going to use the setups they already have, because I know, to my knowledge, there is this specific technique in macro photography called focus stacking, where it's with a DSLR, for example, where you take a whole bunch of different pictures of a subject, kind of like burst mode, at each, like a whole bunch of different focal lengths, so that the entire subject will be in focus. And I don't think macro mode on the iPhone 13 does that. Or maybe if you just take a regular picture with the DSLR, one plane of focus will be there, and then some others will be blurred out in the background. Right. For focus stacking, you need special software. And so I think this is great, like I said, for the rest of us, I think those pros are still going to probably keep with their setup.
Yeah. And I mean, professional photographers, and especially like wedding photographers and photographers who really need to have the good quality glass and their lenses, and they have the comfort already with DSLRs. Yeah, I just don't see it being something that they're going to convert to. But then again, Apple's worked with a lot of they've seen and they've in their advertising and talked to people. Like in the movie industry, some directors have filmed with just the iPhone as their primary means of a camera, and it's been just a phenomenal result because of it. I mean, just with all the new special effects in the 13 Pro. Alone. Yeah,
I'm personally still very optimistic. I think Apple can do a whole lot more with their cameras.
Yep, I think photography is here to stay for the iPhone, and it'll continue beyond that is for sure.
Yeah, well, I think we really are well into the phase of the primary feature of a smartphone is the camera, and so at this point, you're buying cameras that have all these other communication technology things built into them.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Next couple stories here will be about Apple TV Plus. There's always just so much going on with Apple TV Plus lately. This story, Apple TV Plus strikes an overall television deal with Tom Hanks's Playtone production company. A Greyhound sequel is in development. They did just strike a deal with Playtone, which is head by Tom Hanks and Gary Goetzman. Under the exclusive deal, Playtone will make a new scripted and unscripted television series for Apple TV streaming service. There's going to be a sequel to the Greyhound, the film Greyhound, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought that was a great movie, because Tom Hanks had two great strong movies that were on. It was including Greyhound and Finch. Which premiered in 2020 and 21, respectively. Doesn't necessarily mean that Hanks is going to star in the series, though, but it's his production company. But it just continues every week. We're seeing stories of just more and more content that Apple is jumping on, and I just don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. It's the services are here to stay, and they're just doing great. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. The deal with Tom Hanks and his production company, yes, don't interpret that to mean that Tom Hanks is starring in a TV show on Apple TV.
Yep.
his production company handles production for a lot of different things. So, but it's a great deal. And I think it shows how strong Apple TV Plus is becoming.
Yeah.
On the Greyhound sequel, I don't want to do any spoilers because I am so not into spoilers. Mm-hmm. But what I will say is, with the way the movie ended, why would you do a sequel?
That's true. But maybe a different storyline we're not aware of. I don't know.
Yeah, and as I recall, wasn't the movie loosely based on actual events?
I believe it was. Yes.
Yeah. So, anyhow, I'm sure it'll be a great movie, but at this point, I'm questioning, how do you do a sequel for Greyhound?
Yeah, it's kind of questionable. And besides, with TV show you're just talking about, Tom Hanks being in a scripted series, he did bosom buddings. I think that was enough.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't make the joke, but the joke was going to be, oh my God, we're getting a bosom buddies revival.
Revival, right? What do you think, Andrew? I think this is some good news.
Oh yeah, definitely. I do need to get more into TV Plus. I've been focusing more on Netflix for a while, but this entire week I've seen all these notifications go by from the TV Plus press page.
Yep, and
all these updates. And
I think we lost you there, Andrew.
And
he's downloading content right now.
He must be downloading that content. Yeah, it must be.
Uh-oh. Do you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you good.
Okay.
Well, because, of course, you get notifications anytime any of your favorite shows are, and Picard's already dropped, so I got to go. And Jeff and I both, I don't know if you watch, Andrew, but...
I do, yeah.
We got to go watch that.
But I don't know if this cut me off at this point, but for TV Plus, I've seen all this week, just all these new updates of these shows, new shows announced. Mm-hmm. And like I wanted to say, Charlotte Henry would have had a field day, but a field week.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking of her when we've been talking about this, so that she'd have a good debate about it. Mm-hmm. A couple other stories related to that. Actually, this is a podcast that Apple with their podcast content. Apple joins the true crime genre with TV Plus Run Bambi Run. It's an original podcast. And watch out, Poppy Purnell, Apple TV Plus has just debuted the first true crime podcast called Run Bambi Run. The show follows the real life story of Lori Bambi Bemenek, a Milwaukee police officer who was dubiously convicted of a murder before braving a daring escape as part of a year-long quest to clear her name. And this like the article says, these true crime podcasts are just a must for a lot of listeners. There's so many of them out there now. One comes in notably is, I know my wife really loves Crime Junkie. That is just a huge.
I've heard them. Yeah,
very, very popular. Interesting to see that Apple is getting into the new episodic podcasts, and I think this is great to see. Great to see that they're jumping in on this, and podcasts are that's why we do this podcast, because we love doing it, and there's just so much content out there. What do you think, Jeff?
I think this is great because it's part of Apple's ongoing commitment. But I question the assertion that this is Apple joining the true crime podcast genre. They've already done one, and it was the limited series that went along with the TV show, the documentary series that they did.
Oh, that's right.
And I just totally forgot the name of it. Oh my God.
Is that the phone call one where it's just audio?
No, it's the one where they do the whole interview with the it's like it was the Marine officer that was accused of killing a prisoner in custody, and it was his own team that
oh wow,
that testified against him, and I'm
remember
completely forgetting the name of it right now, and that's just killing me. And you'd think I'd remember it because when Charlotte had me on her show, I was on for the beginning, and then after the whole thing ended, I came back and we did a follow-up episode. How can I not remember that?
He'll come to you. Let's go on and go next story here. We talked about this earlier this week. Plex is going to end support for podcasts this coming Friday as we record this. It's tomorrow. Plex is set to end support for podcasts. The company behind the media management platform has announced its web shows on the Plex media server will also close this week. And they said most of this content will be still available somewhere else on the platform, but they're just not going to be focusing their energy on podcasts or web shows anymore. So I'm kind of sad about it, but I don't think a lot of podcasters got a lot of traffic from Plex when it came to podcasts. Wouldn't you think, Jeff?
As someone who's been in podcasting for a very long time,
yeah,
the stats that I have seen for various shows having or showing Plex, it's very, very low.
Yeah,
like almost. It's not zero,
but it's
not much more. Yeah. But I like the idea of podcasts being accessible from whatever platform you prefer. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, if they're putting resources into maintaining a feature that no one's actually using, it doesn't make sense as a company to continue to support that. Why not put those resources into the other things that they're doing, like the new universal search feature? Right,
which is great. I know, Jeff, you have a Plex server. Do you dabble in Plex at all, Andrew? Is this something you do?
I don't. I know what it is. I've tried it out very early, like years ago. I didn't really have a lot of media at the time, so I just passed it by. Mm-hmm. But I do agree, if they didn't really see a whole lot of interaction with their podcasts because everyone is on Spotify, probably Apple, Amazon, then I think it does make sense. I agree with Jeff.
But yeah, go ahead.
Andrew, if you have time, it's time for you to check out Plex again, because
you really should.
Because I did the same thing you did years ago. I set it up and I started messing around. I'm like, I just don't have enough stuff to put in here, and now it's much more than just a media management tool, because you can live stream all kinds of content through it.
Oh.
And they have the sharing features, so you can subscribe to your friends' libraries, and you can stream content from your friends' libraries now. And now, especially after they just released that universal search feature, the thing that Apple TV wanted or the TV app wanted for Apple TV, you search in one place and it searches across everything you can possibly imagine. That's actually what you can do in Plex now.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So if you have access to content through any of your services and you do a search, it's just like, yep, here it is. And as simple as that. But if you don't have access to the content, it'll tell you, and it'll say, and here's the places you can get it.
Yep. And I've got a lifetime license for Plex, my Plex server, so I'll have it until I leave this planet.
Yeah. And I still haven't gotten around to getting a paid subscription yet. Okay. Yeah. So I don't have the lifetime thing. But I mean, I'm doing all of this stuff already. So one of these days, I'll just bite and I'll pay for it.
Yeah, what the heck. So check that out. If we keep talking about some of the stuff here as far as streaming here goes, IMDb TV, which was always a very confusing service, as it was anyway, what its name was. I happen to watch it. There's some shows on there that are pretty good. Amazon bought this service a little while back. Well, now it's going to be rebranded and called Amazon Freevee. They want in on the streaming wars. This is in The Verge. They did launch another service called IMDb Free Dive back in 2019, and it quickly faded in the background as ongoing streaming wars that the parent company Amazon had already established with its respectable foothold in. But going forward, it's not going to be called Amazon Freevee, a name to emphasize that the ad-supported platform is free to all viewers, which is great. I mean, and I think it's a lot of great things that they have on here. They've been showing things like Bosch Legacy and the scripted adaptations of Tegan and Sarah's high school memoir. And there's so many other shows. Even Judge Judy Shilen got in on the act and left Judge Judy after 25 years and put her show, her new version of her show on this network. So it seems like they're getting some activity with this network, and sky's the limit to where it's going to go, I think.
I was actually surprised. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't like the name. IMDb is a more powerful name, I think, than this one. Yeah. And I know I can understand the reason why they would want to put it under the Amazon brand, because we have Apple changing, they're going from iTunes to Apple TV and iBooks to Apple Books, but I don't know about this one.
I think the name is lame, but I'm surprised that they didn't just roll this in as like the free version of Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah,
because they've already got the name of recognition and giving people a way to watch content with commercials instead of paying for a subscription, to me would be a great stepping stone to drawing even more people into Prime subscriptions. And, and at this point, I think I'm speculating, completely speculating. The number of people that buy Amazon Prime for the content as opposed to the shipping, it's probably much higher now.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, that was always the reason why people had Amazon Prime at first, like, oh, get free shipping. Eee. But that's so irrelevant these days that you want all the other stuff that you get. So
I believe it or not, I still buy Amazon Prime first because of shipping, and then everything else that comes along with it's great. Yeah. But so now it's not free shipping; it's buy something and it shows up in 2 hours, or no later than tomorrow morning. And that's definitely a Prime feature. Yeah,
same day or overnight. It's always where they've really added a lot of that. So. Next story here, Netflix for Apple TV now uses the native tvOS 15 video player. Experiencing Netflix on your Apple TV is now more enjoyable and consistent with Apple's guidelines, as the app has now adopted the native video scrubber in tvOS 15. Netflix now is going to play nice with your Siri remote. You'll actually be able to search for it. It's actually going to work in the Apple TV app, and this is kind of a bit of a game changer, I think. Netflix was always very resistant to allow this to happen, but I think they start to see that maybe this is a good thing to do. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I'm not as excited as you are about this.
No,
but I like that they're doing this because it fixes some interface issues that Netflix has. As far as it being a game changer, okay, the game changer is when they let you do full Netflix searching through the TV app. Netflix is still keeping itself so siloed on Apple TV. It's really annoying.
No, I agree.
I do like Apple's default UI that they have for videos. I just like if all these apps plug into it, it's just a nice, consistent UI.
Yeah.
And you get muscle memory, I guess.
Yeah, you do. You do. But it's all dependent on what people do. If you're using an Apple TV and using the Apple TV app, I mean, it is kind of nice because I like going to the menu on the Apple TV. I'm going to go to Paramount Plus and go watch Picard here soon. But you see all the other choices. It's all right there. It's all right there. It's all right there. Easy to get to. If something is on Netflix, it's going to pop up and give it. You readily be able to go in and check it out instead of having to go into the Netflix app and then start looking at what they're recommending and looking through all the stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think it's something smart. Granted, I don't think the audience is going to be that big, is as big with the Apple TV with other platforms like Roku or the smart TV or standalone apps, or even watching it on your iPad. It's going to vary, but it's good to see. And then it's also seeing that the Apple TV platform in itself, I mean, the device as well as the platform is getting stronger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that is it for the news this week. Let's go into some of the topics. Last week, beta 1 of iOS 15.5 was released, so it's continuing this week. Nothing else is really changed since we talked about this last week, but I found this to be interesting. There's so many different rumors and stuff. I don't want to dive into all these rumors because it's like it is. It's rumors, and I don't want this to be a rumor show because we're always talking about future releases, but we know inevitably iOS 16 is going to come out, and Mac OS is going to have a new version, and Watch OS. But I thought I would like to know. This question was actually asked in a 9 to 5 Mac article here. If is this going to be the final update before iOS 16? Because a lot of the details that are in 15.5 beta 1 are just basic updates and some changes what we've talked about in the past. But where is this going to go? I think. Do you guys think that will Apple go anything beyond 15.5? I mean, their track record kind of shows that they tend to when it's at this time of the year when they're releasing another version of an update to the OS. It's a .1 version as opposed to .1.1. I think this probably potentially could be the final update before they announce iOS 16. What do you think, Jeff?
I think that there's a possibility, a reasonable possibility, that we'll be at 15.5.x up until 16 officially comes out this fall. I could see a 15.6 coming out if Apple is doing something with hardware releases between now and then, where there are new features on the devices where they need to add some new functionality to the operating system for those devices.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think, Andrew? Do you think they're going to come up with a new one?
Based on as far as I remember it, I can see iOS 15 being announced at WWDC, and then maybe there will be maybe 0.1, 0.2 after that. Probably just 0.1, and then I think it'll be 16.0.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob Beach, I saw, is in the chat there. How you doing, Bob? He asked what is in 15.5 that's coming up. I think biggest thing was the Face ID while wearing a mask. Well, that was 15.4.
That's 15.4.
What was I don't remember what the other stuff is. I probably had to go back to the old article here. It was there was a couple things here. I'm sorry. Let me go.
Yeah, and the horrible thing is I honestly just drawing a blank on what they added in.
Yeah, let me.
Same.
It's like there's so many features now in our operating systems that it's hard to keep track of what we have versus what we're getting.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of updates here. I'm sorry, I mean, be fumbling here. I'm just going to go look to see if the one of the articles does. Here it is. I couldn't find this, but believe it wasn't a lot of big changes.
Yeah, it's not like universal control is showing up, because that already happened.
Right, because they were saying that the universal control wasn't going to be available if you go up to the beta for 15.5. You have to be on the Monterey 12.4 update to be using universal control on that. But yeah,
so what I just remembered, I think the iTunes Pass and Apple Wallet is going to be renamed to Apple Account, I think.
Yes, that was going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's the only thing I can think of.
That's right.
If only we had a tool that could help us research that quickly.
I've got it. I finally found the article. Sorry, guys. This is a good review anyway. There was some references to the Apple Classical, because Apple did buy that classical music service that's going to be added into that. So they did see code in there talking about classical music. Apple Pay Cash was going to have an update to the Wallet app, and request and send buttons will now be there to make it easier to get to it right from the Wallet app. Again, we talked about universal control. I guess there's going to be a sports kit update because of Apple adding the Friday Night Baseball program in there. I guess the Apple Card is now going to be referred to the physical card for the Apple Card as the titanium card in the Wallet app. And like you said, you just talked about the iTunes Pass rebranding. That's going to be they're rebranding that to the Apple Account Card. And
one of the features, because of course I looked up to, one of the features that I'm actually really looking forward to, and I can't believe I forgot about it, is being able to see Wi-Fi signal strength.
That's it.
For your HomePod connection.
Totally forgot about that. We did talk about that last week too. You go back to show 198.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did talk about that, but thanks for asking, Bob. And it was, but it does have some updates here. So, but that's great. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where it goes. It's always fun to kind of try to figure out what Apple's going to do with this stuff. So, next topic. I know, Jeff, you got pretty excited about this, and we talked about this on Mac Voices Live earlier this week. iMovie for iOS and iPad OS was updated. It's up to version 3.0 here. The biggest thing they added was the fact that you have storyboards and you have Magic Movie projects that can be added here. And I think it's a pretty exciting thing. I haven't started playing with it yet. I don't know if you have yet, but Jeff, but it's got a lot of great things, and I like the storyboards. I think it's going to be something that a lot of users are going to enjoy, making quick videos, because that's the big thing right now. People are editing and creating quick little short video snippets. Of course, TikTok. So, have you had been able to play with it all since it came out?
I played with it just a little bit, and I was playing with it from the perspective of I want to see what these features are and what you can do with them versus I need to make some videos, because my video editor of choice is LumaFusion. And I actually do all my video editing on an iPad Pro. And there's people out there right now where their eyes are suddenly melting like, how? What? But seriously, it's actually really cool.
Yeah.
So the new features, I think this is fantastic, and it's clear to me Apple sees where their iMovie product is being used, and when I say where, I mean what space it's being used in and what devices it's being used on, because this is an iOS update,
right?
And the whole storyboard features and stuff that's not on iMovie on the Mac.
No, it's not. Because we were debating that. It's like, why isn't it they say anything about the iMovie for Mac? And they said nothing.
The only update the Mac got was compatibility to be able to import the movies made with the storyboarding thing. But clearly, Apple sees iMovie as a tool that people are using to make video content that's going out on their social media networks and in a few other places. So they created tools to make that easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I like some of the storyboards. You have things like DIY or cooking, a day in the life, about me, celebration. So you got some really cool little storyboards. I mean, there's about 12 of them here, so I think, or 15 of them if I count correctly. But
yeah, and when you look at those, I mean, you can probably immediately think of a video you've watched on YouTube fairly recently that fits in almost all those categories.
Absolutely. It kind of, you think about it, the app that they came out with for iOS before Clips, the Clips app, you got to have a lot of fun with that, but this is more professional. I think the Clips was just more of a fun, silly way to do a quickie movie, and you may want to upload it to social media, via TikTok or wherever with that. But even when you go into each one of these storyboards, you got all kinds of different styles. You can add music and color and fonts, and so you got a lot more flexibility and not have to be a full out video editor. I mean, we all here, or we use Final Cut Pro. I can get much better with Final Cut Pro, and I've have it, but they did do some updates to those Pro apps too, to be more optimized with newer hardware. So, but no, this is exciting. I mean, people kind of, I had thought people that were starting to abandon iMovie because, everybody thinks, it's a free version and it's not that great, but it really, even the Mac version, there's just so much that you can do with it for somebody. I mean, anytime I want to do any video editing and people are on a Windows machine, think about what are you going to do? How are you going to edit movies on a Windows machine? Anything that's out there in Windows is not good. Let's face it. And you always have iMovie to fall back on. But Apple's done that with all of their media type apps. GarageBand works really well in iOS as well with audio. And iMovie is great as well. So, I mean, it's great to see. I mean, and I went right from a version 2 to version 3, and a lot of great new things on here. So check it out. The next topic I want to talk a little bit about was about Tim Cook this past week. He was a keynote speaker at the Global Summit Conference, and the topic of sideloading apps is still a bit of a big debate. Tim is definitely defending the fact that Apple has the right to stop and be opposed to sideloading. If everybody doesn't know, this is a big proposed Digital Markets Act where it would require Apple to allow the sideloading of apps on the iPhone outside the App Store. And of course, the big battle with Apple and Epic was always was another thing you could think of. Andrew, with your knowledge of security, what I know you may have talked about this before, but I'd like to refresh everybody's memory here. What is your thoughts with sideloading? Is it something that is really potentially be of a security issue? I mean, I think it is.
Yeah, there can definitely be some security aspects to this. What I was saying earlier this week, I lean a little bit more towards sideloading because I think I'm in favor of just giving people a little more freedom when it comes to these platforms. And Apple already has Gatekeeper, for example, on Mac. I'm sure they could bring that to iOS. I forgot what I was going to say next, but yeah, I think I'm in support of that.
Okay. Jeff, what are your thoughts with sideloading?
I see it as a place where people are going to start really screwing up their iPhones. And by that, I mean, people like us, I think we're in a better position to be able to determine whether or not apps outside Apple's walled garden would be safe. But there are so many people that, I mean, they just don't know. And they're not in a position to be able to like really get the information. For us, we're talking about, we have years and years of experience dealing with this stuff, and the average user doesn't.
Right.
So that causes me some concern. However, do we really need to babysit everyone? Is that, yeah. But, and I had another point, Oh, crap. It was probably the best point, too.
Well, I remembered my point.
Okay, go with your point, and then my point will probably pop into my head.
I just think the argument that Apple is putting forth is kind of weird. I assume that, because they call it sideloading on iOS, when it comes to the Mac, it's just, like the normal way of just downloading your apps from the internet. But I kind of think that if Apple could introduce these two platforms at the same time, I'm sure they would love to have macOS as locked in as iOS is now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I remember what my point was. So clearly, Andrew, we are tag teaming.
You are tonight. This is great.
Okay. So my other point ties into something that Jim Ray said on Mac Voices Live on Tuesday. He was talking about the inherent security features that are built in to the iPhone. And I wonder if what he was saying is like totally spot on, because if Apple has created a system, which they have, where apps are basically sandboxed from each other. So if you sideload an app, isn't it going to be contained the same way the other apps are that you're using? And it will be restricted from accessing the same things that apps in the App Store are getting at.
Okay. Well.
So yeah, security. Andrew, I'm with you. It seems kind of weird that this is the hill Apple is choosing for this battle. But maybe from an optics standpoint, it's the right one for them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you want to go back and watch the actual keynote that Tim spoke this past week as we record, link is in the show notes. Check that out, and we'll give you some more insights on what sideloading is. You decide what is it. Maybe it's something that you're not. That's something you wouldn't want to be doing here. So, next topic I want to talk about a little bit was AppleCare Plus. I found this article actually in Consumer Reports of all places, but I thought this was a great discussion in the sense of, is AppleCare Plus worth buying for your iPhone? Given the high, and that's my first answer too. But as we read, as I'm sure you've all read Consumer Reports, and they do spend a lot of time in detailing, kind of debating whether it is or it isn't, going through some of these things, but. Do you shell out $199 for an AppleCare Plus plan? Yes. I every single iPhone I've ever purchased. Well, of course, I'm in the Apple Upgrade program. I don't have a choice. I have to buy it. So, but for those of you who buy it outright, is it worth it? You bought it on yours, Andrew, I assume?
Yes. The last couple of models was actually the first time. Like, I bought the iPhone 12. Now I'm on the iPhone 13. And those are actually the first two models, I think, where I bought AppleCare Plus. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's just, it gives me peace of mind, which I think is interesting, because I think that's their entire marketing, advertising. Like, they want to drill this into your mind. It gives you peace of mind. Why don't you give us more money? But like, I think that's also a good thing. Like, if my iPhone gets stolen or damaged, I can just send it in and hopefully get it repaired or maybe replaced.
Yeah.
I have a 2-prong test for AppleCare. And prong number 1, is the product designed to be able to leave my desk? Prong number 2, does it have a display?
Yes.
And when you get yes on both of those, the answer is you buy AppleCare. That's it.
Yeah.
And AppleCare has paid for itself over and over for me.
Me too.
My biggest AppleCare success story relates to my previous MacBook Pro. So I got the first generation butterfly keyboard touch bar MacBook Pro when it came out. And mine was cursed, just straight up cursed. And it went through, I think, 5 different keyboards. Maybe more. Like, seriously, I was losing track of keyboards. They replaced the logic board. I want to say 3 times, and it was like the only thing that was still original on my computer when I got to the end of AppleCare. I'm pretty sure was the bottom plate, because that's where the serial number's etched. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, seriously, I'm pretty sure that was the only original component left. And when I took it back in, I had like a month left on AppleCare, maybe. And I'm like, it's doing it. It's, the problems, they're there. And they looked at it and they're like, yeah, you're coming up on the end of your AppleCare. And this computer has been an ongoing problem from the day you got it. And we're not comfortable. We're going to be able to make that stop with the end of your AppleCare coming up. So let's just give you a brand new current model MacBook Pro.
Oh, wow.
Sweet.
And I'm like, yes, thank you.
Ka-ching.
And yeah. And now, well, some people would look at that as I scored big time, and they're thinking of the money and I just got a free upgrade.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I did get a free upgrade on my computer in that sense, but I paid for that upgrade over the course of that AppleCare window, because I spent so much downtime and taking the computer in, having to switch over to a backup computer. Yes, I had to keep a backup Mac around just so that I could work. I didn't come out ahead on that, but in the end, I got a computer that was newer, didn't have the problems, and has never been in for servicing of any kind under AppleCare.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it is nice. I mean, we all have stories. I spilled water on my MacBook Pro, and they basically they didn't replace the whole thing, but they replaced basically every component that was inside the MacBook Pro. So, but it was covered 100%, and they gave me goodwill. But these days now, the Care Plus plan, and it's happened to the best of us. You drop your iPhone and it cracks the screen. Well, the iPhone 13 Pro Max, it's not cheap to replace the screen because of the components. You have to really get it fixed. So it's $199 for the AppleCare Plus plan on the 13. Screen replacement will only cost you $29 as accidental damage. For any other accidental damage, it's $99, and that covers it. I think I sold my iPhone 12 Pro Max to my sister-in-law, and I couldn't figure out why her camera wasn't working real well, but it turned out that she dropped it and the back of the camera of the iPhone was cracked. So
that will do it.
$99, and then they fixed it. So that in itself, especially someone if you worry you're a little more prone for dropping. But there are people out there that are that way, but I think the AppleCare Plus plan is well worth the investment.
Absolutely.
Consumer Reports as kind of summing up their bottom line. They go in and say there's really no right or wrong answer. I think we've debated here. There is a right answer.
I completely disagree with Consumer Reports on this one.
There is a right answer, and that is get it.
Yeah.
And they also debate, why is it so expensive to fix an iPhone? Well, the components are getting more expensive. I mean, they're very intricate, and Apple has done a very good job of trying to reinforce it. They advertise that it can handle dropping it in the mud and being able to be water resistant, but it's gotten a lot better over the years. But just like any other electronics device, you've got that slight possibility that it could be a problem. So
yeah, it's a supercomputer in your pocket.
It is. It really is. So, so that's it about AppleCare Plus here. And one other thing I kind of wanted to talk about here, I didn't know if we would get to this or not, but I'm going out to future here a little bit. I thought this would be fun to talk about here a little bit. 9to5Mac put together an article here, again, for iOS 16, which was still rumored that it's going to be out and when it gets announced in June. But there's so many stock apps out there with the iPhone. I'd like to hear what your guys' thoughts are. I know it's hard to put you on the spot here as far as what apps are out there, but what would you like to see Apple upgrade the most? And then the first thing that they said in the article here, I think is is a good one is messages. I think messages is great, but there's so much more to improve on that. I'll start with you, Jeff. What do you think? What do you think Apple could do better with messages of what you experience with it now? Because it's been the same for years, basically.
What I'd really like, and this is not going to happen.
Yeah,
I would like Apple to take messages and make it our universal messaging app. So you can plug in your credentials for WhatsApp and and Signal or whatever else you're using, and you have a unified interface for all of your chat tools. And you remember when we used to have apps that did that?
I do.
I thought that they did announce that. Wasn't it Message Kit or something?
Holy crap. Really?
I don't remember that.
Message Kit.
I just assumed that all these third-party players like Facebook Messenger didn't want to have all their messages going through Apple's platform.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. What is Message Kit? I love Google for this.
We all do.
That's definitely not it. That's definitely not it. Man, why does everyone call their stuff the same thing?
Darn Google.
Message Kit is an open source community driven UI library for creating a messaging user interface.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So, yeah. And so this is, and it's also part of the input layout tools built into Swift.
Okay.
Yep. Then there are a number of other apps that mentions here. I kind of agree with them with the camera app. I think the camera app's got some places that could has room for improvement. Specifically, trying to make it, like they say, a pro version and be able to understand, being able to take the full understanding of what the camera can do. I know there's so many third-party camera apps out there. I don't know if you use the standard camera app, or do you use any of the third-party ones that are out there?
I do both.
Yeah, me
like
too.
For my regular stuff, like just day to day, hey, I'm taking photos real quick. Yeah. It's the camera app, and then what am I using? The funny thing is, I just tap on the icons and I don't pay attention.
We have Camera Plus. You've got Filmic Pro for video.
I do have Filmic. Yeah.
There's a number of third-party apps, but what should Apple do to make the camera app even more of a attractive app to be
what
using?
They need to do is expose all of these other controls that the camera has,
right?
But not by default. What they need to do is have a pro mode on the camera.
Exactly.
And so you go flip a toggle in settings, and then it exposes all of these other interface elements. And so most people will leave that turned off. But for those of us that want those features, then go into settings, go to camera, and turn on pro.
Okay.
So it's not even like in the regular interface in the camera app. You have to go somewhere to find it. So you don't have people accidentally turning it on.
Right. What do you think, Andrew? Do you think would you like to see any improvements in either one of the apps we just discussed? The messages and
my idea was actually I want to see improvements to Apple Mail.
Mail, okay.
The Mail app, it feels like it's 10 years old.
Yeah. And
I specifically mentioned this because I recall maybe a couple years ago, there was this rumor that Apple was planning improvements to Mail. And it did sound like they were maybe trying to copy Google, where they would have some AI, probably Siri, automatically sort your emails into newsletters and travel and purchases and all that sort of thing. And I really hope that they do get to that.
Okay. Yeah, see, this is still a prime opportunity for one of the third-party email app developers to just jump way ahead of Mail. And I use Mail as my exclusive email app. Yeah. And not because I think it's the best, but it's the only one that actually does all the things that I want. Mm-hmm. And you get a subset of features across the different email apps that are out there. But if you want something where you can have your email aliases set up, and then you can also say have digital signatures on your messages. And I don't mean like this message was sent from my iPad, but where it's the actual tokens. So you can do the verification that this email has not been altered, and the full PGP sort of thing as well. And you can't do all of it and then all the plugins that add in all the extra functionality. Mm-hmm. You can't do all of it except in Mail. So I have to deal with what Mail is to get all the other stuff that I want.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I hope, obviously this was just all speculation. It's our thoughts, what we want to think. We want to see what Apple would come up with. But, Apple has been stalling for quite a few years for most of these apps we've talked about on this topic. So let's hope. Let's hope we can see some more improvements going on to the future here. So it looks like we have come to a close for the show this week. But before we wrap up, I wanted to talk about our Buy Me a Coffee contributors for this week. And thanks for everybody who's supporting the show. We really appreciate it. This week's supporter was a listener, Bill. Thanks, Bill, for supporting the show this week. He bought a couple of cups of coffee for us this week, so we really appreciate that. And I'll drink a couple of those for you as well, Bill. So thanks so much for listening. I'm glad you enjoyed the show as well. But with that, let's go ahead and wrap up for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. Support the show, as I mentioned. Buy me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee, just like what Bill did this past week. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you are notified when we are live streaming, which is usually on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, on our YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/DaveG65. You also go watch and listen to past shows, as well as the live streams we've recorded, which we are this week. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where most, if not all, the topics we discuss are flipped into that magazine, and you can go back and look at those links. All the links are in our show notes as well. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts. I'm going to keep highlighting Pocket Casts. I love Pocket Casts, but also Apple Podcasts, which is most popular, of course. But better yet, just go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. Jeff Gamet, thanks as always for being here. Where can people find you?
Well, thanks for having me back. And I know I said that I was really happy to be here, and it's true. I have so much fun. This is great. Okay, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, JGamet on both, youtube.com/JGamet for my videos, most Tuesday evenings on Mac Voices Live, and Thursday, it would be right about lunchtime for me, on The Big Show, and then Friday mornings on the Mac Show, and then of course most Thursday evenings now here with you, and also on Context Machine with Brian Chaffin. Don't forget to mention that. Seriously, we finished recording this week's show shortly before I hopped in here, so I'm very excited about this week's show, and listen. Yeah. Brian got his studio display, just so you know.
Oh,
nice.
You better go listen to that Context Machine. I want to hear about that, because that's impressive. Thanks for being here, Jeff. And Andrew Orr, I'm so glad you made it back to the show here. We've had you on a number of times, and we'll have you on again. We love having you, and thanks for being a guest this week. Where can people find you and your work?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Right now, you can find me on Twitter mostly at Andrew Orr Not. And then, as I mentioned earlier this week on Mac Voices, you can also follow me on Apple Music under the same username, where If you like, metal music, alternative music, check my profile out.
I'll make sure we have that link in the show notes here as well. Appreciate you being here. And I appreciate all of you being here. We really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the show. We enjoy doing it. And we'll talk again soon.